outside a little town in the middle of the night, he sent all those angels to sing to a raggedy bunch of shepherds watching their sheep outside of Bethlehem. In those days, remember, people used to laugh at shepherds and say that they were smelly, and they called them rude names, which I can't possibly mention here. You see, people thought shepherds were nobodies. They were just scruffy old riffraff. But God must have thought shepherds were very important indeed, because they are the ones he chose to send the angels to first. And that night, some shepherds were out in the open fields, warming themselves by a campfire, and suddenly the sheep darted, and they were frightened by something. What was that? And they turned around, and standing in front of them was a huge warrior of light, blazing in the darkness. And the angel said, "Don't be afraid. I haven't come to hurt you. I've come to bring you happy news for everyone everywhere. I've come to bring you happy news. Today in David's town in Bethlehem, God's son has been born, and you can go see him as he's sleeping in the manger." And behind the angel, they saw a strange glowing cloud, except it wasn't a cloud. It was angels, troops and troops and troops of angels, armed with light, and they were singing a beautiful song. Glory to God be fame and honor and all our hoorays.
Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the sky. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
Well, as you can see, the shepherds stamped out their fire safely. They left their sheep and they raced down the grassy hill, through the gates of Bethlehem, down the narrow cobble streets, through a courtyard, down some steps, past the inn, round a corner, through a hedge, until at last they reached a tumble-down stable. They caught their breath, and quietly they tiptoed inside, and they knelt on the dirt floor. They had heard about this promised child, and now he was here, heaven's son, the maker of the stars, as a baby sleeping in his mother's arms. This baby would be like that bright star shining in the sky that night, a light to light up the whole world, chasing away darkness, helping people to see. And the darker the night got, the brighter the star would shine. And from the book of Matthew, far away in the east, 3 clever men saw the very same star. the star that God had put in the sky when Jesus was born. They knew it was a sign. The baby king had been born. They'd been waiting for this star. They knew it would come. "He is here," they shouted, and they were very excited. At dawn, they packed up their camels and they wrapped gifts for the baby. They brought their most precious treasures of all, frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Special, sparkly, lovely smelling, gleaming things, just right for a king. The three wise men, now actually if you see them, I'd think that they were kings because they're so rich and clever and important. They set off and they rode their camels across endless deserts, up steep, steep mountains, down into deep, deep valleys, through raging rivers, over grassy plains, night and day and night for hours that turned into days, that turned into weeks, that turned into months and months, until at last they reached Jerusalem. Now, Jerusalem was by far the most important city for miles. And this is where a king would be born, in a palace. But they were in for a surprise. They went to see King Herod, because surely he would know about this baby, but he didn't. In fact, he did not like it one bit. He did not want anyone to be king except him. But Herod's advisors told the three wise men what was written in their books, what God had said about the baby. "Go to Bethlehem," they said. "That's where you'll find him." And suddenly that star in the east started moving again, and it brought them to the little town of Bethlehem. And they followed the star through the streets, out of the nice part of town, through the not so nice part of town, into the really not nice at all part of town, through a little dirt track, and it stopped right over a little house. Not a palace. And it stopped right over a little house. Not a palace. Sure enough, in that little house. Not a palace. Sure enough, in that little house. Not a palace. Sure enough, in that little house, and crowns, and they bowed their heads to the ground and gave him their sparkly treasures. To the king God had promised David all those years before, the baby Jesus.
We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar, field and fountain,